Tan ta tan ta tan ta go. BFM 89.9. Good morning. I'm Nadia, Hassan sitting in for Sharakutin, and these are your morning headlines. Continuing on from the waterlogged theme of the past couple of days, finally, hopefully we'll see another headline tomorrow because the impasse has been broken. And what's happened is that after 5 or 6 years, depending on which paper you're reading, the stalemate has been broken. The state government has actually made a deal with the federal government, and as a result, this water processing plant called Langat is going to go ahead. It was a surprise deal for some because a lot of them could not agree on the 9.65 billion price tag that was originally put forward. But now, I suppose, in the light of the water crisis, and as you can see here on the Malay Mail, you have this really another pretty picture of somebody filling water in their buckets. In the light of this, hence why a lot of people think the agreement was reached. But finally, it's a boon for Selangor because right now with the processing plant, that means you'll actually have no more worries for water, at least for 2025. But in the meantime, people are going to have to suffer from low water pressure, and if you're one of the areas, in fact, if you actually look at the Malay Mail, the big issue, especially as you can see, is the fact that Balakong has been having a bit of troubles, and it's even, of course, hit the small little traders who now have to use like disposable plates because they can't wash their plates, and more pictures of people with buckets getting out, and even the armed forces with big burly men helping you today. But the fact of the matter is, hopefully, as I believe with the Sun saying, it's a done deal. Namely that now there'll be no more impasse, you'll have no more worries about water. But it's gone to the point of yesterday, the fact that it actually had to reach a critical point before anything was done. Somebody's back had to be to the wall before anything was done, and whether this is actually the right way of looking at things going forward. But the interesting thing to look at is how the papers dealt with it. The Sun and the Malay Mail were actually sort of fairly balanced on their views. The New Straits Times delved into punnery and went into watershed moment. The Star was a bit more forthcoming and basically Langat 2 ahead. They were all talking about this issue, and the funny part, and talking about the twist in the tale, is that PKR was not aware of this deal. In fact, they actually come out to say that they had no reason to know. So PKR Strategic Director Rafizi Ramli, several other leaders of the party all said they were not aware, they need more details on it before they can comment. Whether this is an indication of a rift in the party following Kajang is anybody's speculation, but the fact that PKR was sort of caught by surprise by this deal is actually such a worrying trend. But regardless, at least Tan Sri Khalid, the MB, has gotten this deal through, and it's going to be probably a good mark at least. Hopefully, water levels will come back to normal. But I do want to point out Utusan, given the Utusan standing, it's no surprise that they actually put Selangor Ako. Now, that's the word for the day, which is ako. In some means, it means either concede or they accept. And the way that Utusan has penned it is like after 6 years, PKR finally was forced, and the word is actually terpaksa ako, to let the Langat 2 plant go. Now, that's interesting, saying that they were forced and they had to do it when PKR themselves admitted that they weren't really aware of the deal. So you can take that stance ever way you kind of wish. But as Sina Harian's headlines finally puts it, finally, hopefully this will resolve the problems. Of course, like I said, Langat's not going to pop up tomorrow, although that would be quite a feat. But so we'll have to deal with a few more weeks of heat. The one thing I really hope is that if the water levels come back to normal, people do not just forget about this and wait until the next water crisis. Forward planning, people, seriously. The other story that we're following up on the news is the sad tale of the maid who went postal and murdered her 2 charges. Definitely a ridiculously sad turn of events. And in the Malay Mail, it actually talks about a perfect maid poser. Apparently, before this, there was no indication that she was having problems, and the family is understandably devastated. And in fact, the pictures that all the press have taken are showing them in various stages of grief. And, you know, it's very hard because they clearly did not expect this coming out of nowhere. What I'm hoping for is that a more intense investigation will happen as to why. And I think that this will probably crop up the idea of, were maids stressed again, well-being of maids again, and that's going to be a bit of an issue. But of course, the added twist in the tale, if you can see in Malay Mail, is the fact that apparently she was illegal. That's another thing. Then can you imagine the parents? They're already grief-stricken after this whole incident, and now they have to wonder whether or not they'll be hauled up to court for illegally harboring a maid. So that's going to be another issue, but to be fair, I think that's the last thing on their minds at the moment. A couple of other news related to the weather, since we are on that theme, is that apparently in Penang there are a couple hills on fire, and you can see the smoke for miles. Hopefully, yesterday we were talking about people praying for rain. Hopefully this actually sort of helps. And a couple other items in the news following Tan Sri Taib Mahmud. Basically, his Balingan seat is going to be declared vacant, and as a result, that will spark another round for by-elections for this. It finally seems to happen after so many years. He's actually finally stepping down. It's coming in an interesting point in Sarawak's history where they've actually just recently signed a couple of power deals to strengthen the power backbone. Whether or not his successor will have the same vein as him or same DNA in the sense of politics. So that will be one thing to keep an eye out for today. And one final piece of news from the Malay Mail. And this is the interesting thing. Somehow, and it's a little box at the bottom, but it caught my attention, namely because we are 30 million. Sometime today, the 30th million Malaysian will be born. And it will most likely, based on the stats, be a Malay boy, because stats shows that males outnumber females by 106 to 100, and Malays are forming the majority of the population. That's interesting to think about, the fact that males actually outnumber females, because if you're a single woman dating in KL, you definitely wonder where all the men are at the moment. That the statistic doesn't seem to work. But anyways, what has happened with us is that we've actually tripled our population since 1963. So now we're all one big 30 million happy family. And of course, this boy is being born, or most likely this boy is going to be born in a time when the country is at tough odds, the economy is not doing so great, and the world's in peril. Not the best thing to be told, but hey, let's celebrate it anyway. That's been your morning headlines. I'm Nadia Hassan for BFM 89.9.